Three. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Great to have you today. My name is Abner Rivera. I'm the admissions officer here at the University of Florida College of Veterinary Medicine. If you're joining us today, whether live or watching via the recording, you're here because you're interested in becoming a veterinarian. You're wanting to apply to the UF Vet School. You want to get prepared. So we're going to be going over the VMCAS application overview, kind of step by step of what the application consists of, some tips, and just in general, our admissions process as well. We do have a chat going on, so if you have questions, feel free to put those in the chat. I will take some questions at the end. If you would not want to be part of the recording, we'll probably end the recording and then have those questions available as well after the recording. So it's up to you what you like to do, okay? So real quick, the agenda, we're going to go over the admissions criteria and the overall cycle. Some of you might not have that much knowledge of our admission requirements, so we'll give a quick overview of that. The application process itself, where we'll spend most of the time of today's talk. And then for each section, I'm presenting some of the important things that you ought to know at a what you ought to focus on so that you can be the best competitive applicant possible. Also mentioned that in addition to the VMCAS application, there is a second application, which is the supplemental or the UF professional application, very similar to your undergraduate application to the university. We'll get you some resources to take home with you moving forward, and then obviously some questions for you to ask. All right, so on the website, you'll see that we recommend an applicant to apply with a GPA of 3.0 or higher. Okay, that includes the science coursework in addition to the math. So if you've seen our website, we require a series of courses, biologies, chemistries, and so forth. We also have intro to statistics as a prerequisite, and that's the math one. But if you've taken any other, whether it's the advanced electives or any other elective as part of your bachelor's or any graduate level, should you be applying, with a graduate program, those are all going to be factored in if they're a science or math course. Last 45 is at the time of when you apply, whatever coursework you have on your transcripts that are sent to the company, you count 45 credits up, okay? That is going to generate a GPA. And then your overall, it includes all your coursework as part of your, academic history, if you will. So those three GPAs are generated via formula we have, and then an average is produced. And depending on where you land, it is decided if you're going to move on to the next phase in the process. We have two applicant pools. We have the in-state pool, the state-sponsored pool, or the self-funded, which is the out-of-state pool, okay? We tend to see the vast majority of applicants from the out-of-state pool. Roughly, we're about right now on a yearly basis, close to 2,000 applicants combining both pools. We have all requirements for the prerequisites needing to be complete with a C or higher. Okay, so if you are listening in and you already know that you have a prerequisite with a C- or below, that'll need to be repeated by the end of the spring term prior to entering the program in August. Okay, we recommend and not require that you apply with no more than 2 to 3 missing prerequisites by the deadline. And so that 3 means, for example, a microbiology with lab, a physics 2 with lab, and then biochemistry, let's say. Those are 3 right there. Now, it's not to say that you have to, like I said, that it's a requirement. You can apply with a few more missing, but keep in mind that the more classwork, the more courses you have completed, the better off you are, because it helps with your GPA, and it overall helps with the analysis performed by the admissions committee in trying to gauge your academic capabilities and your overall being able to sustain the rigor of the curriculum with better analysis, having more prerequisites completed, okay? Also, finally, that if you were to apply and you completed coursework in the fall, right? The deadline is in September that we're going to talk about here soon. If you complete the classes in the fall, those classes are not factored in again into your GPA. Okay, so keep that in mind. As I know, some institutions, some other vet schools might recalculate your GPAs and then thus affect the ranking or any changes to your admission, but we do not. Okay. We obviously have requirements for you to have experiences, and these experiences are either animal experience or veterinary experience. Animal experience, the very main difference between both of them is that veterinary experience, you are under the supervision of a veterinarian. So whether you're at a shelter, at a hospital or clinic, if there's a veterinarian supervising you, those are veterinary experience hours. If you're not supervised, animal experience, okay? And then I go into a slide here as we go through that'll give you some examples for you to focus on. Lastly, we require 3 professional references, and 1 must be from a veterinarian. And then also I provide some information along with those available, along with the information available on our website for you to prepare, kind of have some resources. Lastly, because from time to time we get asked this question, including it here, we don't have any test requirements. So we do not require the CASPER. We don't require the CASPER. The same with the GRE. We no longer require it. And then we don't require the TOEFL, okay? So here's a general overview of the admission cycle. This information is also on the website. So right now we are in a new cycle that just recently opened last month, and that was on January 23rd. And it'll be available to you until September. And it's not specifically until May when you can select the schools that you want to apply to, okay? So if you're going to be applying to our program and a few other ones, it's in May when you could, in theory, say that, okay, the application's now available. You'll have until September, and I believe it's September 16 of this year, which is the deadline for you to submit all your transcripts, have your references in, and all of the information on the application itself. We say this every year in VMCAS and the AAVMC as well, and probably other vet schools, is give yourself plenty of time to submit about a month before, at the minimum 2 weeks. And this is to your benefit because should something happen, whether there's a delay in a transcript, where there is an error that you committed, you have time to manage the situation. But the reality is that unfortunately, the vast majority, or more than half of the applicant pool, will submit within that last week, and that's very cutting it close, if you know what I mean. So try to be proactive and plan ahead if at all possible. So between September and December, our office will be processing those applications, checking them for completeness, checking prerequisites, and then overall the admissions committee reviewing the selected applications. After that, you'll get notified whether you've been extended an interview offer or not. And right now, we just wrapped up this cycle in which we had interviews starting November, December. And so projection for next year would probably be between December and February. Okay, so you want to just monitor the website for those official dates. And then obviously those candidates selected, they'll get more information sent via email, but they are virtual interviews through Zoom. Okay. After the interview, if you get offered a seat, meaning that you were admitted, you have until April 15 to notify us of your decision. And so the decision of when you would be informed would come between mid-February or early March. Now, depending on what that final timeline is for interviews, that could be before. So again, you want to just kind of monitor the website because, from time to time, we might modify our cycle, try to meet the different needs that the applicant pool shows us with being a little bit more competitive and so forth. And so, but at the end of the day, you have until April 15 to notify us of your decision. Now, we do have alternates as well that get notified when the decisions go out, and those alternates are in the running until the week before classes start. So meaning you are still under consideration should a seat become available 1 week before the semester starts. And so we generally extend some seat offers to alternates sometime after April 15, primarily those in the out-of-state pool. And so that list is fluid. And so we send information as well to those candidates on what the process is and more information. Okay. After April 15, you've made your decision to commit to our program. Then you'll get information about a summer online orientation through Canvas, kind of paperwork and forms and information to get ready for August when the semester starts. And then you'll have orientation in August, and then you start the program. Okay. So really switching gears now to really what we're here to talk about is the application itself, the walkthrough. So we're going to go over the VMCAS application. VMCAS stands for Veterinary Medical College Application Service, very similar to, if you remember, the Common App, because you're applying through VMCAS, which is a one application to multiple vet schools, okay? And then the professional application. So again, real highlight or summary, centralized application service sponsored by the AAVMC. And basically all of your application materials will get sent to VMCAS, and then they get sent out to every vet schools. Now, here's what's important for you to know. There is one cost or one fee for your first application, which this new cycle is $234. And then for every vet school that you apply to, in addition to that first school, is $128. Okay. So if you do the math, that could be pricey in addition to any standardized testing or any other additional fees that every vet school might have. So you want to build a budget, right? You want to build a plan on how you're going to approach applying to vet schools. And the overall suggestion is you want to apply to the ones that you meet the minimum requirements would be the way to go. Here are the dates, just as a recap. Back in January 23rd, it started, open up the new cycle, September 16th, the deadline, and specifically May 9th is when you would be able to select the schools that you want to apply to. If you're asking yourself, the average applicant applies to about 4 to 5 different veterinary schools from cycle to cycle. So you have some schools to choose from, and obviously you'll go through your criteria, whether it's location, costs, culture, et cetera, so you can go through that as you get going through the cycle. So this is probably one of the best things you ought to keep in mind or know, is that this is the main page that you'll land to for the application. I suggest you bookmark it. So if you just were to put in your search browser, VMCAS veterinary school, this link will show up. And this is what I will be using my presentation space out of, which is the VMCAS sample application. Okay. So once you get going, you will first off start with creating an account. What's important here is that we ask applicants to provide an email address not associated with your school's email. And that is because since you're going to be applying generally speaking, at the end of your junior year, right, that summer, most schools, not all, operate this way, but after you graduate, you lose access to your email. And so, because our cycle runs for about a year or more, you want to make sure that you don't have any issues with your email or correspondence. So, we suggest a second email. Excuse me, we suggest not using your institution email. And then we ask you for a second email should something happen with that first email. One tip is to monitor your junk spam folder every year. Unfortunately, the software has glitches. Your email platform has issues or has a blocking feature, and some candidates don't receive the email. So you want to kind of monitor that as well as you go through the process. Okay. So the VMCAS application overall is divided in 4 quadrants: the personal information, academic history, supporting information, and program materials. We'll go through each one. Personal information, very straightforward. Biographic information, contact information, citizenship information, etc. This is some of the information you could start entering. Some of you might have already started if you've began the application. So this is some of what you can work on. Important here, the release statement and some of this information, depending on the slides, I might have not captured all of them and updated them all. So you want to kind of cross-reference with the website because of the timeline of this presentation and how soon the cycle opened, some of the information on their website hasn't been updated and it's from last year. But again, your responsibility to monitor the website and make sure that everything's up to date. But overall, the steps and the content will be most accurate unless I point out something to you, okay? So you want to go over this release statement. This just in general is giving you sort of the guidelines and the rules that you got to follow. For example, one of those, you must maintain a level of professionalism as you go through the cycle. And you can read more of that through the release statement when you get to that point. Okay. Academic history, you're entering the background that you have with the different schools that you attended. And then obviously the transcript entry, which we're going to be talking about quite a bit because that is a heavy component of the application. So here, what you want to do is, because you're going to be basically entering all your coursework in the application, what is probably one of the best things that you could do was to order yourself a transcript. That way you get to see what your transcript is going to be when it gets to the company. Now, I will say real quick that there is a feature of the professional transcript entry PTE service. That information's on their website, and you want to, should you decide it, be mindful of all the requirements and all the responsibilities that you have as an applicant. So one of them is that they have a different timeline as to when your transcript has to arrive to the company, and a few other things that you got to do just to ensure that that service goes through. And so unfortunately, again, there's some students who might have not read everything. And unfortunately, should something not arrive after the deadline, we do not accept an incomplete application, okay? So be mindful of that should you decide to use that service. Let me back up. And then another thing is important that should you have any coursework done at a foreign institution, you will need a credit evaluation, such as a WES, which is a company that does a credit evaluation of those coursework, making an equivalent to what those courses would be with a US system and a GPA, okay? That needs to be sent as well to the company, to VMCAS. So a couple things here of what's important is, like I said, order yourself a transcript. So that way you get to enter precisely what you see on your transcripts to match the prerequisites that we require. This is an area of frustration for some applicants, that they forget that they had a dual enrollment course that they took when they were in high school. And if that course was taken, let's say at a community college, but you're going to University of Florida, we slash the company needs both transcripts. Okay, so it needs the community college transcripts, and in addition, it needs the University of Florida transcript. Okay. That is important to note, and give yourself time to get those sent out to the company before the deadline. Okay. So here are the prerequisites that we require. There is a handout available on the website that you can refer to. In general, these are courseworks that can be completed at a community college or at a university. As far as biology, as far as biochemistry, genetics, and microbiology with lab must be from a four-year institution offering a biology degree, for example. A couple things is that the microbiology is not to be geared towards allied health programs such as nursing. And a couple of things for you to notice that if you're looking at a biochemistry course, what you want to do is look at the course description of the one that University of Florida requires. The same with the genetics. Genetics, there is, so biochemistry, there's 2 options, and genetics, there's 3 options. And you want to look at the course description. You want to look at the prereqs to those courses when comparing to, should I say, I'm wondering if this other institution that I'm thinking of taking the course through matches. That's the best way to do that, by looking at the course description, the catalog. And then if you have questions, you can certainly email our office. We would help you. We would obviously prefer that you take advantage of maybe meeting with a pre-vet advisor, your undergrad academic advisor, to help you as well. But we are here. We just have a lot of emails and calls, and it's hard to get to everybody right away. But this information right now, you can start in ensuring that you're going to be completing the right coursework. Okay. As far as what's important, we talked about at the beginning, is that recommended with applying with 75% completion. That is no more than 2 to 3 missing prereqs in science or math. You want to make sure that you enter every course just as it is in your transcript. Okay. Then making sure that you give yourself, if not already mentioned, about a month to do this. It might take you some time, and you want to avoid making any mistakes. And then once you've submitted your application and all your transcripts, you want to monitor through the portal to see if they've arrived. And you have access to that. You have access to see the status of your transcripts and the status of your references. Okay. We'll talk more about references when we get to that section, as far as a couple of tips. So as far as the supporting information quadrant, this is when the essays and then the recommendations and the experiences come in. Okay. So this essay, again, we would have to wait to see what the question is for this cycle. This was last year's. It's possible that it's the same, but overall, the essay prompt that the VMCAS utilizes, the AAVMC, is in general, why do you want to become a veterinarian? Can you tell us why? What has led you to the profession? And then they provide you with some general guidelines and kind of what your answer should include, and that is available to you through the sample application, should it still maintain to be the same. Okay. Couple things here in addition to what they provide is that this is really an opportunity for you to be original, show your personality, show your background, show the experiences that you've gained. Okay. It's important that in that essay, you try to connect the experiences that you have acquired so that there is connection, there is cohesion, and provide it in a very personable, but at the same time professional way. And so obviously doing your research and homework and ensuring that you don't have any grammar mistakes is probably one of the most important things. But also trying to avoid generic statements such as "I've always loved animals" would be not the best way to go about it, okay? So as far as recommendations, a couple things is that you are basically going to get to that section and you're going to enter who the individuals you want to be your recommenders, your references to be. You will enter information about them, kind of their name, their email, that kind of thing. And then the company is going to send an email to these individuals. And basically, they are responsible to complete your evaluation by the deadline. So what does that mean? That means that once you've entered their information, it's out of your control. Now, this is what you could do, which is to remind them to ensure that you're checking up on your references, whether it's that veterinarian, whether it's that supervisor. We'll give you some examples here that they submitted before the deadline. Because again, just like transcripts, if they have not arrived by the deadline, we are not going to process your application if it's incomplete, okay? So one from a veterinarian, second and third could be from an academic, so a professor, it could be from a work supervisor, and then we overall recommend a fourth reference so that you have it as a backup should something happen, meaning that one of your evaluators, something happened to them because you had that fourth one submitted, that gives you the 3 requirement of completion that you need, okay? This example as to why a work reference would serve as a stronger reference than an academic is when you compare, if you're using an academic reference for a professor where you've only taken one class, for example, and your supervisor, because you've worked maybe at Publix, at a restaurant, at Home Depot, etc., and you've been working there a couple years, there's greater weight to that reference because that individual writing your reference knows you in a greater capacity in different settings that could speak to your capabilities, whether it's leadership, teamwork, etc., than that one semester for that professor. Now, you can submit both, but just putting into context, should you wrestle with, okay, who do I choose? I already have this number, that kind of thing, okay? And then overall, we are really encouraging that if you are going to be pursuing experiences, that at the minimum 8 months or more is the way to go, so that it gives you in general the opportunity, the best opportunity to have a reference from that veterinarian so that they could, if you will, say that they know you very well, because this is one of the things that they will be evaluating or indicating in your in their reference process that they do, is that they will answer questions regarding how well do they know you, okay? So for how long have they known you and in what ways? And so right now, you know, we're providing this information to you and you could already kind of try to assess who are these individuals that I would want, and obviously asking them, are you okay with writing a strong letter of reference for me as I'm going to be applying to vet school, okay? Again, the tip of making sure that you follow up with them to ensure that they submit their reference on time, okay? Probably you want to give them, so if we know that it's September 16th, I would give them September 1st as a deadline. That way you have extra time should something happen, okay? But that's just an idea. You know, if you want to give them August 15th, you give them August 15th. That way it's even earlier, okay? So here are some resources for you. As far as recommendations, how to go about it, if you go in there, you'll see that there are some tips and guidelines. And then there's this ebook, a very excellent resource for you to go through if you've never seen it. It's about 30 pages or so. It'll really walk you through the whole process, not just from the VMCAS side. It's not that in depth in the VMCAS side of what we're talking about, but the overall gaining experiences, references, community service, other things like that, it'll go through, okay? So a big component of the experiences, or I should say a big component of the application overall is obviously your experiences. And so again, another area that a few changes might have been made or are going to be uploaded to the application this year is with the experiences, okay? So my understanding is that the feature of selecting your top 5 experiences, of marking them, that has been removed. And so you want to go back and go through the website for some of those changes, but also participate in some webinars that are hosted by the company as well moving forward for any changes. But overall, they have an applicant guide. That also PDF is a great resource for you as you go through the application that you can refer to in addition to this presentation. Okay, so as far as experiences, probably one of the best slides in the slide deck here is that you have to think about the application in this way. Do I have experiences in all of these buckets? Meaning, do I have employment experience? Do I have extracurriculars? Do I have research? Do I have animal, veterinary, and community and volunteer experiences? So let's go through them. It is not required for you to have employment. However, there is a level of preference, meaning because as an employee, you have higher responsibility and more is expected out of you than a volunteer, right? That's pretty general knowledge. And so whether it's veterinary related or non-veterinary related employment, you ought to pursue that if at all possible. Extracurriculars, very important as well. Making sure that you're part of related science clubs, whether it's a pre-vet club or any other club related to the sciences, or in addition to the sciences, you want to show that you were involved in the institution that you're attending and you were a part of those types of networking opportunities. Because it's not just for the application itself, but also for you. Those are great opportunities where you get to learn about yourself, you get to build friends, and just kind of overall part of going through your bachelor's, if you will, or your graduate program. Research as well. That can be in any area, any discipline. It doesn't have to be veterinary related. As far as animal and veterinary experience, we talked about the difference. What you want to focus here is that you want to, in addition to these buckets, you have the buckets within the experiences of animal and veterinary. And that is that we're looking for different species so that you have exposure to large animal, small animal, wildlife, exotics, aquatics, because overall the takeaway of wanting to do that or needing to do that is that the committee is trying to understand within your application, does this applicant know what they're getting into? Do they know what the profession is about? And so the more exposure, the more opportunities and experiences you have with different settings and different species, the greater the benefit it is to you, okay? Lastly, community and volunteer. You want to try to pursue opportunities that are non-veterinary related to show your dedication and involvement in the community, because the ultimate goal is that you're going to be serving in the community, and the more exposure and understanding you have about your surroundings, the better it is off for you. And so there's different organizations, there's different clubs that you can participate, and I highly encourage you to go through those. One important distinction or point here is that Believe it or not, some applicants fail to enter information in some of these sections. And so again, when you're going through the application, make sure that you take time to enter any information. And one of the things too is that if you have employment information or an extracurricular that covers the different sections, it's okay that if you enter them more than once, okay? Because it's kind of difficult. There might be a position or it might be an experience that was both veterinary and also work. So the suggestion is that you enter it twice so that it gives you the opportunity from the committee side that they see that information and they get to make the connections as to why you put it in this area and in the other as well. And you're including um, the duties and responsibilities, and you want to make sure that that's done in a professional way, not just kind of very simple statements. Okay, give it very good thought about what you were involved with within that experience. As far as research, what we're looking for here is that it be with any field of study, but under the supervision of a DVM, MS, or PhD. It should be more than general maintenance, kind of specifically activities of supporting the scientific method, observational skills, data entry, stuff like that. Any publications, any manuscripts, anything of that you've been involved with would also be good for you to include. Those would maybe specifically go under your achievements. Okay, so these achievements would include, academic merit scholarships, dean's lists, those type of recognitions. Okay. Last quadrant would be the program materials, and this is the area that we would specifically highlight about our program, because starting in May, you get to select the schools you want to apply to. So it's not until you get to that point you get to see the information of what's required. So generally speaking, we require some essays to be completed, and these essays are just going to be an opportunity for you to answer questions that we are looking for in applicants to be a part of the evaluation process. They vary from year to year. So one example of an essay could be, or in general, essays are targeting for you to demonstrate what is unique about your background and personal experiences and how they would contribute to a thriving community or workplace. And so a couple of the things that you could include would be challenges and obstacles you face, unique experiences. So for example, a lot of us have had to, you know, overcome COVID-19, right? The last couple years. What impacts has that put on you regarding acquiring experiences, whether it's academic, whether it's at a more personal level, those type of things. Cultural, social, societal differences, any personality traits, and many more. I mean, you can include lots of things in these types of essays. What's important is going back to, right, being professional, making sure grammar is good, and then tying them with your overall experiences. Okay. There will be an essay or question about trying to understand if you have any non-extracurricular activities or hobbies. These are, generally speaking, what you're not necessarily involved with at the extracurricular level, wanting to make sure that students know the importance and that they have some background in stress reducing activities such as working out, riding a bicycle, doing photography, any leadership involvement in the community with any type of club or anything like that. So the more of these types of hobbies and stress reducing strategies or activities you have, the better it is off. So that when you get into the program, that is already in place. That is already part of, if you will, your DNA, your way of approaching academics. Because we've all heard of work-life balance. Well, that applies too in the program. It can't be all academics, right? So we have in place an office, staff, and events to help you to balance that, but it's also your responsibility to carry that out, okay? So you'll get to the section of payment. Once you go through that, you want to make sure that in addition to going through the budget of how many schools am I going to apply to and how I'm going to carry that cost, but overall budgeting for your overall education. And so on our website, we have a cost of attendance PDF where you could take a look and it'll break down the cost per year so you get a general idea. I will say that we have a dedicated financial aid coordinator to assist students with financial aid, and the vast majority, not all students, but a good percentage of students will pursue student loans. And we have information on the website about student loans and also scholarships. Scholarships are available once a student has been admitted to the program, and they get information about how to carry out applying to scholarships and going through that process to see if they obtain a scholarship. Okay. Real quick, the professional application, very straightforward. You'll have that link available through the VMCAS application. It's also on our website. It does cost $30 and it's non-refundable. And the time frame to apply or to submit it is between May and September. Okay. As far as resources, these are some of them that I have sort of talked through as the presentation has gone through, but if you want to refer back to the sample application, some of the slides I took, some of the images from the slides, you can go to the VMCAS website. Again, you'll find that applicant guide. It's possible that that hasn't been updated for the new year. Take, monitor that page. Also a quick start guide, so it's divided by the different sections, and also the applicant help center. They provide a timeline. So if you like timelines, checklists, okay, 3 months from the deadline, these are the things that I need to be working on 1 month before. So that can help you stay organized. Lastly, the VMSAR page or website is an excellent resource that'll get you all the information as far as admission requirements for all the different for all the veterinary schools, that are out there and part of membership of the AAVMC, okay? These are those specific resources I'd like to share with you. Feel free to take a picture, visit the specific websites for each, but they are helpful tools for you. They offer PDFs, they offer webinars, and obviously we're here moving forward should you have questions. So this is the admissions team. This is our website, and the general questions email would be studentservices@vetmed.ufl.edu should you have questions. With that, I'll take any questions from the audience. We can certainly pause the recording or stop the recording and get you the opportunity to go through those questions in the last few minutes.